that allows for virtual meetings under the open meetings law. This meeting is being held remotely via a Zoom teleconference, enabling the general public to listen to the meeting. The meeting is also being recorded and will be posted on the Trust website, and a stenographer is providing a transcript of the meeting. The directors have received the agenda materials in advance of this meeting and are free to ask questions or comment at any time on the action items submitted for approval today. Please note, however, that questions or comments from the audience will not be entertained at this meeting. I note that the board memos and the resolutions on today's agenda have been posted on the Trust website in the link entitled Board Meetings, Bylaws, and Other Materials under Board Agendas and Minutes, and thus are available to the public. So all those formalities being in place, there are 10 items on the consent agenda for today's meeting. They are first, approval of the minutes and ratification of the actions taken at the September 30th, 2021 meeting of the Hudson River Park Trust Board of Directors. Second, authorization to amend the contract with Gilbane Building Company for Pier 26 construction management services. 3, authorization to amend the contract with CDR Studio Architects for the Chelsea Waterside kiosk design. 4th, authorization to amend the contract with Joanna Pertz Landscape Architecture for park-wide landscape architect site civil engineer services. 5th, authorization to amend the contract with Gagemeyer Engineers for Pier 40 roof engineering consulting services. 6th, authorization to amend the contract with Melk Urban Design for landscape architectural services for Pier 97. 7th, authorization to amend the contract with Q&A or Q+A Events and Production LLC for Hudson River Dance Festival production services. 8, authorization to extend the term of contract for Call Ahead Corp for portable temporary restroom services. 9, authorization to approve amendments to the employee handbook. And 10, appointment to and ratification of board committee members. It's quite a mouthful. Unless anyone has any comments, I will now call for a motion to approve all of the items on the consent agenda. So any comments or questions about any of that? Do I hear a motion to approve all of the items on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, the motion is approved. Okay, the first corporate action item before the board is a request for ratification of 4 contracts for the Gansevoort Peninsula building construction. And let me turn to Ms. Doyle.
As you'll recall, at the September 30th, 2021 meeting, the board approved maximum contract values for each of the 4 procurements related to the construction of the new Gansevoort Park building, with a commitment that the trust would return to the board for ratification with the final contractor selection and pricing. As discussed at the last meeting, the building is subject to Wick's law. Accordingly, separate advertisements for the general construction, plumbing construction, mechanical construction, and electrical construction RFPs for the Gansevoort Peninsula building were published on the trust website and in the New York State Contract Reporter between June 9th and September 3rd, 2021, inclusive of multiple extensions to the response period. The trust received 5 proposals for the Gansevoort Peninsula building construction RFP, and the trust selection committee interviewed the 3 highest ranked respondents. Based on the submitted proposals and interviews, trust staff has determined Padilla Construction Services, Inc. to be the highest ranked respondent. Padilla is a well-established company that has successfully completed general contracting work for the trust, and which has also performed extensive municipal work throughout New York City, particularly for New York City Parks and the city's Department of Design and Construction. Padilla is a New York State certified MBE. The trust received 2 proposals for the plumbing construction RFP, and both proposers were interviewed by the trust selection committee. Based on the submitted proposals and interviews, trust staff has determined Eastern Plumbing and Mechanical Contracting, Inc. to be the highest ranked respondent. Eastern has extensive plumbing experience on a variety of projects throughout New York, including work for the Dormitory Authority, the New York City Health and Hospitals Corporation, and New York City Department of Design and Construction. Eastern is a New York State certified WBE. The trust received only one proposal for the mechanical construction RFP, and that procurement has failed based on the trust procurement guidelines. Trust staff has since determined that it is in the trust's best interest to make a single source award to the one respondent, CDE Air Conditioning Company, pursuant to the 3 criteria set forth in the procurement guidelines. First, staff does not believe that issuing a new RFP would result in a different outcome, since extensive outreach for this procurement was already conducted, and since the trust already extended the submission deadline date to provide more time for responses. Issuing a new RFP at this time would also delay completion of the new Gansevoort Peninsula building, as well as increase its overall costs, as the other 3 Wicks Law contractors would expect to be compensated for delays not caused by them. Second, staff has reviewed CDE's experience and background and has determined that the firm has a good reputation as an experienced mechanical construction contractor that has performed mechanical construction work with other agencies, including New York City Parks and the Department of Design and Construction. Finally, the proposed pricing has been determined to be fair and reasonable based on staff review against projects of similar size, including the planned park building at Pier 97, as well as industry standards. Thus, the trust recommends proceeding with a single source procurement with CDE. Last, the trust received 5 proposals for the electrical construction RFP. The selection committee interviewed the 3 highest ranked respondents, and based on the submitted proposals and interviews, trust staff has identified Interphase Electric Corporation as the highest ranked proposer. Interphase has previously performed electrical work for the trust for the Pier 26 restaurant concession and post-Sandy reconstructions of electrical systems park-wide. Interphase has also completed numerous projects for other New York City agencies, including New York City Parks and Recreation and the School Construction Authority. The trust therefore requests ratification of and approval to contract with Padilla Construction Services, Inc. for the Gansevoort Peninsula building general construction work for a maximum contract value of up to $7,936,100, including a 15% contingency, with Eastern Plumbing and Mechanical Contracting, Inc. for the Gansevoort Peninsula building plumbing construction work for a maximum contract value of up to $649,000 with 10% contingency, with CDE Air Conditioning Company, Inc. for the Gansevoort Peninsula building mechanical construction work for a maximum contract value of up to $543,475 with a 10% contingency, and with Interphase Electric Corporation for the Gansevoort Peninsula building electrical construction work for a maximum contract value of up to $884,762 with 10% contingency, for a total board authorization for the 4 contracts of up to $10,013,337. The total authorization is approximately $2 million less than the aggregate amounts approved for this project at the September meeting. Funding for these contracts will be provided by the City of New York.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Anyone? Okay, if not, I will call for a motion for ratification and approval of contracts with Padilla Construction Services for Gansevoort Peninsula building construction, for Eastern Plumbing and Mechanical Construction for the Gansevoort Peninsula building plumbing construction, with CDE Air Conditioning Company for Gansevoort Peninsula building mechanical construction, and with Interphase Electric Corporation for Gansevoort Peninsula building electrical construction. Do I have such a motion? Thank you, Pam. Second?
Second.
Thank you. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing none, the motion carries. Thank you. Okay, the second corporate action item before the board is ratification of 4 contracts for the Pier 97 building construction. Ms. Doyle.
The board also authorized maximum contract values for each of the 4 procurements related to construction of the new Pier 97 building at the September meeting. As was the case for the Gansevoort building RFPs, the trust also extended the proposal submission dates for the Pier 97 building construction RFPs with the goal of increasing the number of potential respondents. The trust received 5 proposals for the Pier 97 building construction RFP. Staff interviewed the 3 highest ranked respondents and found Savetta and Sons to be the highest ranked respondent. Savetta is a well-established company that has completed extensive work throughout the city, particularly for the MTA. The trust received 4 proposals for the plumbing construction RFP, and the trust selection committee interviewed the top 3 ranked firms. Based on the submitted proposals and interviews, trust staff determined Eastern Plumbing and Mechanical Contracting, Inc. to be the highest ranked respondent. As noted for the Gansevoort Peninsula plumbing contractor, Eastern has extensive experience on a variety of projects throughout New York and is a New York State certified WBE. The trust received 3 proposals for the mechanical construction RFP, and all 3 were interviewed by the trust selection committee. Based on the submitted proposals and interviews, trust staff determined ACS System Associates to be the highest ranked respondent. ACS has completed mechanical work throughout New York for such agencies as the Department of Design and Construction, School Construction Authority, and the MTA, and is a New York State certified MBE. The trust received 4 proposals for the Pier 97 building electrical construction RFP, and the trust selection committee interviewed the 3 highest ranked respondents. Based on the submitted proposals and interviews, trust staff identified Interphase Electric Corporation as the highest ranked proposer, including for the reasons cited for the Gansevoort electrical contract. The trust therefore requests ratification of and approval to contract with Savetta and Sons, Inc. for the Pier 97 building construction work for a maximum contract value of up to $10,525,375, including a 15% contingency, with Eastern Plumbing and Mechanical Contracting, Inc. for the Pier 97 plumbing construction work for a maximum contract value of up to $764,500 with a 10% contingency, with ACS System Associates, Inc. for the Pier 97 building mechanical construction work for a maximum contract value of up to $407,000 with a 10% contingency, and with Interphase Electric Corporation for the Pier 97 building electric construction work for a maximum contract value of up to $1,399,277 with a 10% contingency, for a total board authorization for the 4 contracts of up to $13,096,152. The total authorization is approximately $1 million less than the aggregate values approved at the September board meeting. Funding for these contracts will be provided by the state of New York and restricted funds from the sale of air rights within Manhattan Community Board 4.
Any questions or comments?
Why do you think you only got, why do you think you got 3 mechanical contractor bids here and only the 1 on Gansevoort?
It was a mystery. We have Kevin and Kate on our call here, but we've asked this already because both procurements were happening at the same time, and because our procedure requires potentially interested contractors to get in touch with us in order to get the bid packages. We actually knew who was seeking the bid packages, and the staff reached out specifically to the prospective Pier 97 respondents about saying, hey, wouldn't you be interested in bidding at Pier at Gansevoort as well? And they did not. Perhaps it's because of neighborhood work in the vicinity and efficiencies. Perhaps it's the size of the firms. Kevin, Quinn, I saw you on. Do you have anything that you might add to that?
No, just that, I mean, yeah, it was tricky bidding them both at the same time. So the firms picked basically their favorite project to bid on, and they both buildings have slightly different mechanical systems. And I think the 97 one is maybe just a little bit easier to install, but that's speculation a little bit. Basically, they just said they didn't have the manpower to bid both jobs, and they picked this one.
Okay. No takeaway though for the future. It looks, I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah, basically,
Okay.
yeah.
Like a 2-for-1 deal for us.
Well, they're presumably exercising judgment about what their capacity is, where we do have a bidder on both and we've awarded both to a particular firm. How do we ensure that they've really got the capacity to do both?
Only the electrical contractors are duplicates, and it's a fairly small value and volume of work, so we were comfortable with them. And Interphase was the firm I'm talking about. We work with them many places in Hudson River Park, so we know them well, and we're comfortable with them.
And why is it that sometimes the contingency is 10 and sometimes 15? How do you determine that?
Do you want me to take that, Noreen? Or?
Sure, go ahead.
So both buildings have tricky foundations. So the general construction contracts are the ones that have 15% contingencies, and then the trade contracts have 10%. And the reason the general construction contracts have the 15% is because they both deal with the foundations. Gansevoort has a lot of unknowns underground, and then Pier 97 is over water partially.
Got it. So it's a question of the known unknowns versus the unknown unknowns, I guess. Any other questions or comments?
Who's the construction manager at Pier 97? It's Gilbane at Gansevoort, right?
Gilbane for both.
Gilbane for both. Okay.
Right.
I see. Okay.
Under a single contract, by the way.
Okay. Hearing no further questions or comments, I'll call for a motion for ratification and approval of contracts with Savetta and Sons for Pier 97 building construction, with Eastern Plumbing and Mechanical Contracting for Pier 97 building plumbing construction, with ACS Systems Associates for Pier 97 building mechanical construction, and with Interface Electric Corporation for Pier 97 building electrical construction. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the motion is approved. That completes the board action items for approval today. So I'd now like to ask Ms. Doyle to present the president's report.
Thank you. As you know, tomorrow at 1 p.m., we're hosting a groundbreaking and thank you celebration for Phase 2 of Chelsea Waterside Park. Phase 2 includes an expanded dog run with separate areas for small and larger dogs, a refreshed sports field, a permanent picnic area, many more planted areas, and public restrooms. As directors Kern and Frederick can confirm, the local community has been advocating for the restrooms in particular for more than 2 decades. Tomorrow's event is an opportunity to thank all of the community members and elected officials, including longtime Chelsea Waterside Park Association member Bob Trent-Lyon, who kept the faith while we awaited the opportunity to begin this work, which of course included the need to find the required funding. Tomorrow is also our chance to publicly thank City Council Speaker Corey Johnson for providing $5.2 million for this project, as well as Borough President Gail Brewer for providing the funding for upgrades to more efficient LED lights. Assemblymember Gottfried, State Senator Hoylman, and of course Hudson River Park Friends provided funding for Phase 1, and tomorrow is a chance to thank all our partners again. It sounds like I'll be seeing several of you at the celebration, so I thank you for that. At the Gansevoort Peninsula, in-water work has ceased for the season in accordance with our regulatory approvals. While we had originally expected to complete all in-water work this season, site conditions proved more challenging than expected, and work will consequently resume in the spring. Work has now shifted to the sports field, where grading, curbing, light footings, and related conduit work is underway. Additional work related to the boardwalks and the 13th Avenue Promenade will begin this winter. JR Crews will soon begin the Phase 2 site work in the zone comprising the shared use Esplanade, dog run, exercise area, bikeway, and reconstructed Bloomfield Street entrance and exit. At Pier 97, off-site fabrication of the Pier 97 shade structures is expected to be complete by the end of December. The structures will then be stored by the contractor until the footings needed to support them are installed on Pier 97 in late winter or early spring. In the meantime, the site work and electrical construction contractors have now mobilized on the pier and have begun some required demolition work. Once demolition is complete, installation of the drainage mat and cast in place concrete elements will commence. As noted in the memo for the amendments to the milk contract that was part of the consent agenda, the trust has begun coordinating with New York State Department of Transportation to satisfy approval and procurement obligations for the Esplanade and bikeway elements planned for the vicinity of Pier 97, which will be funded through a Transportation Alternatives Program or TAP grant. We will also be coordinating with the city's Department of Parks and Recreation for the seamless connection of these elements into Riverside Park South, located to our north. 2 weeks ago, an impressive feat of logistics was accomplished at Clinton Cove. Private Passage by Malcolm Cochran was carefully lifted and transported to a specialized facility where it will be restored per the Public Design Commission's approved treatment plan, which was developed in coordination with the artist. The artist was there in person to watch the operation and is very appreciative of the steps taken to restore this wonderful sculpture. I'd like to give Kate O'Malley, our Assistant Vice President of Design and Construction, a special shout out for stewarding this project to date. It's not been an easy one. We expect the conservation work to take 3 to 4 months and to reinstall the sculpture in spring 2022. At Pier 84, we're out to bid on the new jog run. City Council Speaker Corey Johnson and Manhattan Borough President Gail Brewer have both provided significant funding for this project. We hope to return to you with a selected contractor for approval in early 2022. At Pier 40, the reconstruction of the southern roof section is progressing well, with completion by the end of the year. In January, the Trust will be able to reintroduce parking in the area below the restored roof, generating additional revenue for park operations. Next, I'd like to publicly thank Hudson River Park Friends Board Chair Mike Novogratz for his successful $1.3 million challenge match for the science play area in Tribeca, and to thank all the donors who stepped up to fund this wonderful.
Thank you.
Connie Fishman, Toby Pierce, and the Friends staff deserve our gratitude for leading the campaign as well. Now that all the funding has been secured, Olin has begun the final design push needed to ready the plans for public procurement this spring. We expect to have final construction documents by March, after which the Trust will issue a construction RFP with the goal of starting the science play area construction later in 2022. Are there any questions on design and construction matters thus far? Okay. The Trust River Project team has had a busy fall, hosting 3 large public events, each with great success. This year's SUBMERGE Marine Science Festival was held as a 3-day event in mid-October and took place both in person and virtually. Over 3,500 individuals participated, 2,670 of whom were local students, with many teachers incorporating SUBMERGE into their official fall curricula. Many schools brought multiple classes and tuned in multiple days. Prior to the event, our River Project staff spent weeks working with partner organizations to involve them in programming. For example, the New York Aquarium focused on Atlantic sturgeon, and Lamont Doherty Earth Observatory offered a powerful presentation explaining sea level rise. This year's program also included a series of engaging panel discussions and live performances and involved collaborators like NYU and Killer Snails. For each event, staff made efforts to find ways to elevate the voices and experiences of students. Additionally, the public also joined us in person for wet lab look-ins, tide deck tours, and Celebrate oyster programs. Following SUBMERGE, the River Project team was thrilled to bring back the popular Release of the Fishes event in person at the Pier 40 Wet Lab. Students and visitors of all ages, including our incoming council member, Eric Botcher, helped return fish and invertebrates to the Hudson River, ensuring that animals' behaviors are minimally impacted during the changing seasons. And to close out the season, we hosted our annual Pumpkin Smash on Pier 84. 1,115 pounds of pumpkins were smashed, diverting seasonal organic waste from landfills and educating our park community about composting. Beyond programming over the last year, the Trust River Project team has considered ways to expand accessibility to our educational programming. One interesting initiative is our effort to translate educational lessons and materials into multiple languages. A current focus is our popular STEM at Home activity series, which invites students to engage with the Hudson River from anywhere through hands-on experiences and projects using common household materials. Over the past year, we've worked with a number of corporate volunteer groups, largely recruited through Hudson River Park Friends, to translate these lessons into Spanish, Portuguese, Polish, Korean, Hindi, Mandarin, and Russian. To date, 12 lessons in Spanish have been posted to our website, with additional lessons in other languages soon to follow. Beyond written translation, we also continue to offer ASL and captioned videos for our virtual events, including for the SUBMERGE Festival. This fall, Hudson River Park Friends received 2 grant awards that will support additional river project initiatives. The New York State Department of Environmental Conservation is providing funding that will enable us to purchase and deploy an autonomous aqua drone called a waste shark, which is designed to collect floating debris in the water while simultaneously gathering geospatial and water quality information. Our river project team scouted and researched this little robot prior to COVID, and it's exciting to think about being able to deploy it in 2022. Aside from collecting plastic debris, we believe it will help us engage volunteers and students about plastic pollution and contribute to the park's ongoing research. The other award is from the Hyatt and Watson Foundation to help us install water quality data displays. The displays will feature the park's new River Health dashboard and communicate Hudson River's water quality data to park patrons, boaters, and students. The Hyatt and Watson grant builds off work accomplished through the 2020 Innovate for Social Impact Award from Cantina, a highly regarded design innovation agency that, among other things, works with organizations to design user-friendly experiences involving complex technology. Through Cantina, the Trust has created a river health model and dashboard that will support the park's stewardship and environmental education efforts, while also helping non-motorized boaters make informed decisions about days when water quality conditions are poor. We invite you to explore the new dashboard on our website to learn more about physical and environmental factors affecting our local water environment. The park is grateful to all its project partners, especially Cantina, Dr. Wade McGillis at Columbia University, New York State DEC, U.S. Geological Survey, and New York City Water Trail Association for helping to make the park's continuous water quality data more accessible and relevant to the public at large. At a future meeting, with time permitting, we'd love to guide you through the model that was created for this dashboard in more detail. Our Public Programs Department has also concluded a very successful 2021 season that featured the transition of programs from virtual back to carefully designed in-person programming as the summer progressed. Patrons and visitors took full advantage of the Healthy on Hudson exercise programs, along with the participatory dance, and certainly enjoyed the reemergence of live music performances. The department is now planning for 2022. As noted in your board materials, we hope to bring back the Hudson River Dance Festival, produced in collaboration with the Joyce Theater in June in Chelsea. In August, we're already looking forward to hosting the Best Blues Barbecue Festival in New York City, this time at Pier 76. We've issued a request for proposals for a producer for that event, so you'll be hearing more about it in early 2022. We're also already fielding questions and calls about guest events throughout the park. Any questions at this point?
Noreen, it's so amazing all that the park is doing on science and the estuary and really, teaching people about the river. And I just hope that will be on the agenda to make that even better known, because I feel like the park isn't getting enough credit for all that it's doing on that. It's not well enough known, is my fear, is that we, and I assume that that's going to be part of what Robert Atterbury will be doing, but I think we're doing so many tremendous things in that area, and I wish more people knew about it.
Thank you for that. I agree. And our staff tries very hard to get the word out. And I think we've made some progress. So for example, this year we got a few calls from reporters asking us about observations about wildlife that they were seeing in New York. And they were calling us as a reference point, which never used to happen. So that was exciting to see, and that is a form of progress, but there's, as you say, there's so much that we do with so many different types of audiences, so many public school students served, the general public as well. And it's a really, I think it is a distinguishing aspect of Hudson River Park. So I'm with you. Anyone else before I continue? Okay. Your board packet includes the 6-month financials for fiscal year 2022. Kim Quinones, our CFO, and Sikander Zuberi, Vice President of Finance, presented the financials to the directors of the Finance and Investment Committee meeting held on November 15th. So the 6-month financials have also been posted on the financial and budget information page of the Trust website for the public to view. As noted in the financial report, the Trust recorded total operating revenues of $18.8 million and operating expenses, net of reimbursable expenses, of $10.6 million, for a surplus of $8.1 million before capital expenditures for the first 6 months of the fiscal year. Revenues were 67% and expenses were 42% of budgeted amounts for the full year. Directors will recall that the current budget was prepared with conservative assumptions given the continuing impacts of COVID on many of our tenants. While revenues are better at this time than budgeted, they are still down as compared to pre-pandemic levels. Spending for capital improvements and equipment totaled $13.8 million, or 40% of the amount budgeted for the full fiscal year, but capital spending is expected to increase during the second half of the fiscal year due to all of the construction contracts that are now approved. In addition, since the September 2021 board meeting, the Trust has received an additional $438,436 in reimbursements from FEMA related to Sandy repairs. The total amount received to date is over $32 million, with approximately $1.8 million pending review with FEMA. I'd like to thank Owen Davies for continuing to spearhead the FEMA coordination process for us. Are there any questions on the 6-month financials or comments from the committee members? Okay. Again, at this time of year, although we're very pleased with the effort made by the Office of General Services and its insurance broker Gallagher in minimizing the increase to the extent possible, I unfortunately have to inform you of another large increase in our general liability insurance premium. In a nutshell, the premium for our $100 million of general liability coverage increased by 16.6% as compared to the previous year. Specifically, the premium increased from approximately $5.64 million in 2021 to just over $6.5 million for the policy period between December 1st, 2021 to November 30th, 2022. Part of the increase is due to the large amount of construction underway this year. For this reason, the Trust had to separate liability coverage for park operations from construction coverage. Thus, for the new term, Brit, a Lloyd's of London carrier, is providing the primary coverage for claims against the Trust and its service contractors, and K2, an Allied World affiliate, is providing the primary coverage for claims made related to construction projects. The deductible for claims will remain at $25,000 with an annual cap of $150,000 for both. Pursuant to the Act, the state and city share the cost of the Trust's general liability, with the state paying 65% and the city 35%. Are there any questions on insurance? The Governance Committee met on November 29th, 2021 to consider the transparency plan dated October 2021, which was prepared in response to a statewide request from Governor Hochul. The Trust has posted its plan on the Trust website. While the Trust already posts a great deal of financial and other information on its website, moving forward, we will be posting additional information and accelerating the pace at which it is posted as well. For example, staff will post the list of selected vendors approved by the board for various procurements to the bids and business opportunities portion of the website to make it easier for the public to find out which vendor was selected for particular competitive procurements. Reports like this President's Report will also be posted as part of the draft minutes so that the public does not have to wait until the next board meeting for the official minutes to be adopted. Further, staff will form a subcommittee to review our website every 6 months to identify potential areas for improvement and will meet with the governance committee annually to discuss any updates or ideas related to the trust transparency plan. The governance committee also discussed adopting a policy to create a formal review procedure for requests to install monuments in the park. The policy would require board approval for large-scale monuments that occupy a large footprint or could create a change to surrounding uses, and would further identify the criteria to be considered for such installations. The criteria could include such considerations as whether the monument is appropriate for the proposed location, is compatible with the surrounding park context, or interferes with park functions or impacts park safety. The board's design committee would review the proposal for aesthetics and to ensure it either does not impose significant maintenance costs related to its care or comes with an endowment to cover such costs, or anything in between. The review process, as discussed by the governance committee, would include review by the trust design committee, as well as public review through the local community board and/or advisory council. Based on feedback from the governance committee, I intend to share a draft policy with the directors for review, after which staff would present the final policy for board review and approval at the January board meeting. Any questions? During the executive session portion of the recent finance committee meeting, we provided an update on lease negotiations with Chelsea Piers. We're close to the finish line. Once we reach agreement on the few remaining items, we will share the proposed lease with the board, after which time the proposed lease will be subject to public review through the trust significant action process, which will include a public hearing and comment period. As is our practice, we will also meet with the advisory council and again with Community Board 4 to answer questions. At Pier 57, I'm happy to announce that the exterior perimeter walkway opened to the public in November. It's already been noticed by some walkers and joggers and provides lovely views of the Hudson River, Little Island to the south, and Chelsea Piers to the north. The public rooftop park is projected to open in April. Google is planning to start moving into its offices at Pier 57 in January, and the public marketplace, park environmental classrooms, and public living room are expected to open later in 2022. Are there any questions on Chelsea Piers or Pier 57? Okay, last, I hope you will join me, I'm not sure if she's still on, in thanking Deborah Kuska, the park's longtime vice president of operations, for her tremendous service and contributions to the park. Deborah is leaving us, but not the state family. She's headed to one of our sister agencies for a position with even greater responsibility. Deborah worked on the Route 9A landscape design and bikeway issues before joining the park, so she's one of the very few who's watched the whole park take shape and grow up. She has an astonishing eye for detail, and we've relied on her to help us solve countless issues, including many related to safety and circulation, coordination with both the city and state departments of transportation, large and small events planning, and so many other things. We will miss Deborah, but we are very, very pleased for her that she will get to put her enormous experience to great public use. Deb, are you on? I know she had another commitment that she couldn't get out of. Okay, well, please join me in thanking her. And that's the end of my report.
Please let her know that we join you in thanking her,
I
and
will.
look forward to seeing all the good she will do in her next position. But any questions or comments for Noreen? Okay, thank you. And I will now ask Jeffrey Lefrancois to present the Advisory Council report. Jeffrey?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hi, everybody. Happy holiday season. I do want to give a shout out to Deb with all my multiple hats of how great it has been to work with her, and Noreen knows that. So onward she goes, and it's been great working with her. With regards to the Advisory Council, we held a pretty significant meeting last month where we invited state and city DOT to attend. We provided them with a long list of questions in advance of the meeting and had a really productive back and forth throughout. We were absolutely delighted to have both agencies there at the city and state level, that they had had discussions in advance of the meeting. And most of it was about safety, about access to the park, about the Greenway in particular, how what the state and city management of 9A and the relationship between city and state there, who we talk to when we want something changed. It was really meant to be a real big learning process, and it was. And as a part of that, we're sort of going to continue our advocacy to continue pushing for an expanded Greenway, because we see it as a critical need given the changes in mobility around the city of New York and the greater need for micromobility, protected micromobility modes of areas of transit. This is a key way for that. And so understanding how the advisory council could advocate for that was a big part of this. Second was understanding how these engineers look at the pedestrian experience getting from sort of the Manhattan east side of 9A to the west side, where everything is happening in the Hudson. And when 9A was built, things that happen today in the Hudson were certainly not happening then. And so how we can continue to advocate to the city and the state to really look at this through how much of a significant use change there has been. And then specifically through a lens of safety, how we can continue to improve on that. We are following up with them on that list of topics and a whole bunch of others. Not sure if there's anything you want to add on your side in terms of how you found it productive and sort of how it was really a 360 conversation where I think it brought great value and understanding for the trust as well, to how the agencies can and cannot work together sometimes.
It was a really successful meeting, and I will compliment both the State Department of Transportation representatives and the city counterpart for coming fully prepared and really with an open, I think, mind towards providing information, answers, what they could and couldn't answer. And I think awareness that there are things that they could think about, such as more counts, more data on the bikeway.
Yeah, that was a major, that's right. That was a major factor of understanding use and all of it year round for both city and state factor as well. There's no comparable bike path in the state of New York and nowhere else in the city of New York either, really in the country. So it's one of a kind, which is why we're really trying to understand how the city and the state take its approach to it, all in the interest of better serving the park user and making it safer to get there at the end of the day was really the crux of this all. So that will continue to be ongoing. We were happy to have the conversation because it informed our members, and then also we hope that it bodes well for the relationship the trust has with both agencies. The other thing we are undertaking on the advisory council, we have a new working group, the Historic Resources Area Working Group. Many folks on the advisory council are very excited about this, and I'm pleased to say the trust is really excited about this. Team is excited about this too. The idea is, the mission has always been that the part of the West Side history would be told through and in Hudson River Park. And so how should that best be done? We all recognize the limited resources that the trust has to do all that it does. And so the advisory council saw this as a key way to be able to support and supplement the work the trust does. So we have a working group that is going to look at the West Side, figure out what history we want to be sharing, and then more importantly, who should be the voice sharing that history. Because I think we should all agree, I probably shouldn't be the voice for like the oyster harvesters on the West Side. We should find the relevant entity to tell that history. And the same goes for the LGBT history in the Hudson. And, you know, all of the voices that the labor movement in the Hudson, right? Like who should be telling that? And so this committee's job will be meant to help supplement and provide information and direction to the trust. So that way, when the time comes for sharing those narratives, we have a recommended entity to tell that history and a way that the trust can go about doing it. So we're very excited to be able to supplement and not just demand more from the park on this undertaking. So
I should say that I have a special request for the group to focus on Pier on Gansevoort as a kind of first priority zone, since we're under construction there now, and there are many layers of history at Gansevoort alone.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, that concludes my report for this month. So any questions, but otherwise, thanks everybody.
Any questions or comments? The history project sounds fascinating and
A lot, and you know, it was interesting. You know, a couple of people were interested, and then all of a sudden it sort of ballooned, and there's a lot of good conversations happening. So we're excited to be able to provide something. So thanks everybody.
Awesome. Thank you, Jeffrey. I will now ask Connie Fishman to present on behalf of the Hudson River Park Friends. Connie?
Thank you. I'm going to start today with talking about volunteering. After more than a year with very few in-person volunteer opportunities, 2021 has seen a great deal of improvement, roughly doubling the number from last year, from about 600 to around 1,200. Though this is slightly, still only half of what we were doing prior to COVID. So we're very hopeful that we'll get back to our pre-COVID numbers in 2022. Friends is in the process of developing a business council where Westside companies from various industries can join their colleagues together with friends and share information about their own activities as well as the parks, and also how the park can play an active role in employee engagement and retention, community service, and provide member benefits through access to corporate leaders in the adjacent business community. This is something that we are working on completing the planning for in the next month or so, and then rolling out in the winter. We had our gala in person and saw a few of you there, so thank you for those who came. It was very successful, with revenue roughly double of that in 2020 when we had our virtual gala, though still about $500,000 short of our pre-COVID revenue numbers. From the perspective of Friends Board, however, they considered it a huge success, in particular as it was many of our guests' first large event back since March of 2020. And the reduced capacity, I think, was extremely popular, since it's a room that in normal times holds 1,000. This time we had 600, and it allowed people a much more comfortable evening. And the program itself, I thought, was really good, one of the best galas we've had so far. Our Playground Committee luncheon will be held on January 28, and today we began sending sales materials out to our larger audience. Our annual revenue goal for the luncheon is about $250,000, and we're crossing our fingers that COVID won't derail our plans again this January. We recently received grants to assist the trust in purchasing the Waste Shark, which you heard about earlier, the monitors for the Cantina water quality dashboard, which Noreen spoke of, and also some new composting equipment for the Trust's composting center run by the Horticultural Department. We're establishing a dog run maintenance fund for the next year through a GoFundMe style campaign, taking advantage of relationships that we have working with various neighborhood dog owners. Our goal is to raise enough money for a seasonal worker to be responsible for the park's 4 dog runs. And finally, we're searching for new Friends Board members to help us fill what we have right now, which is 9 vacant board seats. As a few of you know from our gala announcement, Diana Taylor will be replacing Mike Novogratz as board chair come March. And if you have ideas for new board members, people who might be interested, please contact me and I can provide you with some background about our board's responsibilities and expectations. I would also like to thank Deb Kuska, who I began working with when she was on 9A, before she was ever at Hudson River Park. She probably is one of the few people who has more years there than either Noreen or I, and so I wish her the best of luck in her new assignment. And that's it for Friends.
Thank you so much, Connie. Any questions or comments for Connie? Great. Well, thank you for all of that good work. So is there any further business that anyone wants to raise? Anything? Okay, hearing none, if, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Great, thank you, Pam. And a second.
Second.
Thank you. And all those in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Presumably not. So the meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much to all of the board members for your time. And thank you to Noreen and Jeffrey and Connie and everybody who works so hard to make the park so wonderful. So thank you.
Thank you all.
Wonderful, wonderful holidays.
Thank you.
Same to you all.
Thank
Have a
you.
great holiday, everyone.
Thank you.
And maybe we'll
Thank you.
meet soon at Pier 57.
Yes, tour.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.